I talk to a lot of PAs who have done some of the inner work to figure out what it is they do want, and then they become paralyzed with fear. It's like they're on the top of the diving board, the high dive, they've decided to do it, and they just can't pull the trigger. They just can't make their feet move forward. The other group that I talk to who's scared is the group who they don't know what they wanna do. They're still walking around the pool, or they're not even at the pool yet. So they really don't have a clue what it is they want. They just know what it is they don't want. And this is helpful too. I mean, you really do need to know what you don't want in order to figure out what you do want. So if you're dating, you need to know, like, I don't want a smoker. I don't want somebody who's 30 years older than me, whatever. You need to know what you don't want. But today I'm talking to the people who are really just paralyzed with fear and they can't seem to take action. I talked to a friend the other day and she said, my whole life, my whole adult life, I have ignored this pull that I feel. And she said, I've hidden behind others who were going after the same thing, and I've helped them succeed. And it was like a little safety mechanism that she would hide behind people who were trying to be successful in her field. And yet she won't listen to the call and show up in a way that she knows she needs to. And so this is sort of my advice to her, but also to all of you. Um, Instead of and I'll go over some specific steps, but the main thing I wanted to say to her is you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to have it all figured out. In fact, it's really none of your business how it will all play out in the long run. You just need to take that little action step, like the tiniest little step you can take towards whatever it is you want, because thinking about something will not lead to clarity. Like, you're not just going to sit there and like take a weekend to think about it and then be like, all right, I figured it all out. And I also told her making lists like that may help give you some clarity, but really taking an action step is going to be the thing that kind of lets you know whether it's right or not. Um, my husband has a job change coming up, y'all. This is big. He's been at the same job for 10 years and he is finally taking a step in an entirely new direction. He's going to try his hand at being sort of an entrepreneur, working with somebody else, but he's not going to be with the university anymore in a few months. And so I've been able to experience this as the other half of a couple, and it is terrifying. It is. We're not going to have health insurance, or we're going to have to like buy our own health insurance. We're not going to have all the benefits. We may not have the same flexibility with his schedule. So I get it. It is terrifying. Anytime you make a big change, there's a evolutionary part of your brain that says, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, and you have all these thoughts that pop up that tell you why you shouldn't do it. And this, I think, as long as you know that this is normal and you sort of expect it, um, then it helps you deal with it when it comes up. So I see a lot of PAs in these groups that I'm in, like these Facebook groups, and they are just at the point where they are ready to jump ship. And they're like, how do I do it? How do I do it? How do I turn in my notice and find another job? All right, so here's what to do if you're feeling paralyzed and you can't take action. All right, first of all, I want you to I'm using the metaphor of a car wash. So, you know how when you go to one of those car washes, your job is to go really slow and you're going to pull up to the entrance of the car wash and you're going to keep your eye on the people that you trust. Now, most of these are college guys who are listening to their AirPods and they're distracted, but I'm just going to go with it and say that in that moment, that guy is the guy that I trust to tell me which way to go. So you're going to go slow. You're going to look to people you do trust. You're going to move forward carefully, like one little inch at a time until you feel your tires are in that groove. and then you're gonna let go. That's the scary part. You're gonna put it in neutral, and you're gonna just let the car go. So you don't have to have the whole thing figured out. You're not driving through the car wash. You're letting yourself sort of get pulled along after you did the initial work. Um, Now this doesn't always work out. My husband's aunt, I won't say her name, but my husband's aunt went through a car wash one time, and we still, every time he tells this story, I just laugh so hard I cry. Like her, and it, it doesn't sound funny, but her window got bashed out by like a bar came loose on the car wash. You know, those giant like wiper thingies that wipe your car down in the car wash. So a bar was loose and it knocked out one of her windows, and she's just getting pummeled by like the wiper thingies and the big sloshy brushes, and like her car's getting soaking with it. She made it through. She made it through even with all the mishaps during that ride. Okay, number 2. Remember, this is not necessarily a forever thing. Whatever it is you're about to do, it does our brains tell us this is forever. Once you decide this thing, you can never pivot. You can never change your mind. But there are very few things we can't change our minds about, right? So the only thing you need to ask yourself is this the next right step? And I told my husband, I said, look at it like an internship, like you're trying this new thing. You're given the gift of trying it. Do it for a year, just see what you think. You can always go back into the university setting. You can always go back into natural resources or forestry. Number 3, get curious. So, what would it look like for you to allow yourself to be curious, to give yourself permission to be curious? Allow yourself to chew on it. Don't make a decision right away. Um, with PAs who are ready to jump ship, but they don't have a plan and they really don't, they're not on the diving board yet, I say, okay, take 6 months or 3 months, whatever feels right to you, but call that a discernment period. And really, we spend more time investigating and researching which SUV to buy than we do career choices. So, really take that time, give yourself permission to slow down and to talk to people, to really, I shadowed probably 4 different days. I've been at my job maybe 7 years, and when I was thinking about taking this job, I was so nervous. I was so nervous that I would think the grass was greener and that it wouldn't be greener and I would regret it, and I mean, same thing with my husband. I moved super slow because I was like, "What if he's a jerk? What if he's a party boy? What if he's, let me just take this really slow." I mean, we didn't even kiss until the 3rd date. But yeah, take it slow. Give yourself permission to just be curious and do your research. Talk to people. Go job shadow. Go job shadow. See if it's what you like. And that gives you a chance to really ask questions and like see if they sigh all the time. See their body language. Like you can't see stuff like that over the phone or over a Zoom call. Excuse me. All right, the next one is, let me drink some water. Okay, the next one is breadcrumbs of possibility. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Start small. So many of us think if I want to pursue this thing, I have to do it all. I interviewed a PA, Amanda, a while back, and she was telling us about starting a biscuit company. So she delivers biscuits. So she did not open a brick and mortar store to begin with. Instead, she started making biscuits. She gave them away for free. She had, I tell people all the times, get a beta client. If you want to be like a wellness coach or even a life coach, get a beta client. See how they respond. Get feedback from them. So that's what Amanda did. She did, free biscuits for a while. She tried different recipes. She started selling them to people she knew before she ever like announced it on Facebook. So start really slow. I used to have this obsession with moving overseas. Like, I thought it was just going to be amazing to go practice medicine in a third world country. So this was not like Norway or, somewhere nice that I wanted to move. I wanted to move to a third world country and like be a medical missionary of sorts. My husband was not even a little bit on board, but I had this dream. And so, it went from, well, I'll just tell you. So first I went to Kenya and I found a pharmaceutical company that would pay for it, and I worked in a clinic there for a week. And then I got the wild hair that I was gonna learn Spanish and we were gonna move to Central America. Again, husband not on board, slightly more on board than Africa, but definitely not excited about it. And so he said, "Okay, you've been to Dominican Republic, you've been to Mexico, I don't know, places like that, resorts, but you've never stayed in a third world country and practiced medicine. So why don't you schedule that? See what you think." I did it. Honduras, I really liked it. He said, "All right, well, the family has never traveled overseas together. Why don't we schedule like a vacation in quotations? Because it really was not a vacation, but let's schedule a trip like to Central America and let's see how the kids do. How do we like it?" So we did that next. I researched it. I booked with a host family that somebody else had stayed with who I know, and we signed up for Spanish lessons with the kids. And big surprise, it was not what I thought. The kids were like, "We are ready to go home." Eli did better than Ollie. Ollie was like, hell to the no. She was too little to cuss, but if she could have cursed, she would have said that. I also loved being there, but not with the kids. So maybe that's a dream that we will pursue when they go off to college. But we started small, and my husband gave me permission to dream about it. Um, the next one is give yourself permission to do a shitty first draft. This is from Anne Lamott. She's a writer, she has great books, and she said, "I always give myself permission to do a SFD." And if you're in the writing world, you probably have heard that. This is your SFD, this is your shitty first draft. So you can screw up, you can mess up. I'm writing a book right now, and it is so I feel so much relief when I say, "Oh, this is just my SFD," because it doesn't have to be perfect. And I am really hard on myself. And, I'm working with a lady and she gives me feedback. And I just feel sick sometimes when I see an email from her and it says, "Changes have been made to your document," or "Comments have been made to your document." And her comments are all good. They're not like, "You suck, you're a horrible writer." But I just want to be perfect. I want her to be like, "You know what? There's nothing at all I need to change on here." But that's not going to happen. You're also not going to switch jobs and be like, "Hallelujah. Like, this is the best job in the world." You're going to have issues no matter where you go. We just have issues. So, yeah, give yourself permission to do a shitty first draft. I already said this one. It's okay to not know how it's all going to turn out. In fact, it's really none of your business. Just try it. That's all you have to do is just try it. Um, the next one is ask for help. So you may say, "I don't know anybody who could help. I'm interested in, uh, you know, working in transplant medicine, but I don't know anybody who does that." Or like the PA who ended up in outer space as an astronaut. Like, I'm sure she didn't know any other astronauts. She didn't know somebody who worked for NASA. So here's what you do. Who is somebody I know who knows somebody? Who's somebody I know who might know somebody? And you can put it out there. I call it putting it out to the universe. And it's like the cavalry will show up. Somebody will know somebody who knows somebody. So just put it out there. Um, the next one, give yourself a mini dose of control. So when we feel totally freaked out like this, our nervous systems are pumping out cortisol. We can't think logically. So if you can trick your brain by giving it just a little tiny bit of control, it's going to calm down. So we do this in dermatology. So with patients like, let's say a 10-year-old is freaked out, I want to cut them all off, but they are completely freaked out. So here's what I'll do. I'll say, "Do you want to lie down or sit up?" And they're like, "Whoop, I have to think about that. You mean I have a say so? Do you want to put your hand here or here? Do you want to rub it with alcohol or you want me to rub it with alcohol?" And I just slowly inch forward. "Can I take a photo of it? Do you want to pose while I take a photo of it?" So just slowly inch forward with a tiny little bit of control. So, like with your job, maybe you feel completely just ready to walk out the door and quit. If this is the case, what would look like a little bit of control? I used to leave every day during lunch and I would decide where I was going. I will go to Publix today. I will go to the library today. It was just a little thing, but it was like, okay, I have control over that 45 minutes. It is my time. Or maybe if you have enough vacation or even sick leave, y'all, you can take a mental health day. You don't have to tell them what it's for, but you could do that like every third Friday and it just gives you this modicum of control that makes you feel a little bit better. I'll tell you a secret. Sometimes in medicine, and if you work in medicine, you know this, sometimes we put a fake patient on the schedule. I know, that's so bad. I only do it every now and then. So if you're listening, Clay, office manager, I only do it when I really, really, really need a tiny little bit of control in my day. But yeah, you could have a patient who's an actual patient that knows that you may put them in a spot. Um, anyway, we'll move on. All right. Next thing, morning pages. Okay, so Julia Cameron is a writer and she has this book called The Artist Way. It's not even about artists necessarily. You can read it if you're not an artist, but morning pages. So this is something she came up with, and now there are groups. It's become like this whole thing where you join a morning pages group. And here's what it is: you write every day, and she says it needs to be 3 pages of longhand. I say just write for 10 minutes, but you need to write, and it's stream of consciousness style. So you are just brain dumping on paper. And at first, the first few days, you may say, I have nothing to say. There is nothing to say. I'm talking about my grocery list or whatever. But it is better than therapy because here's what will happen. You know how we all have this voice in our heads? This voice is like rah, 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 talking nonstop. Most of it's negative. Probably only, I don't know, 8 or 10% of it is helpful or positive. And so by dumping on paper, you are like cleaning out the attic, she says. You're dusting all the stuff in the corners. You're getting all that negativity, all that worry, all that stress, you're sweeping it to the center of the room so that you can have access to the helpful stuff, the insights, the ahas. And it takes a few weeks of you doing this, but it's sort of like if you went to see a therapist every day, which I know would be a lot, but let's say you had a therapist that every day you would just sit down with her and she said, "Tell me everything. Just tell me everything." And you felt entirely comfortable with this person and you just like, bleh, like word vomit, just tell her everything. And she's like validating you, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you build up trust. And so eventually you start sort of going below the surface and you're telling her deeper stuff, deeper fears. And then once you get all that out of the way, the ideas pop up. You start having these, oh, yeah, I could do this. Or what would it look like if I did this? But until you get all the clutter out of the way, that other stuff is not going to bubble to the surface. Okay, let's see what else. Invite fear along for the ride. So, like with my husband changing jobs, he is going to be scared. Like he's going to be nervous. That is completely normal. There's no way you could make a big change and not have fear there with you. So invite fear along for the ride. Tell me what you're worried about. I get it. I'm worried too. But don't let fear drive. Put fear in the back, strap it into the car seat, and just know that it's going to be part of you. With this book I'm writing, I go through periods where I'm like, what was I thinking? Why am I doing this? Why would I put myself out there like that? Um, and that's fear. That's fear talking. So that's when I strap fear in the back seat. Um, Somehow my list started over. Oh, last thing. Okay, this is important. This is so important. This happens to everybody. I got this from Liz Gilbert, the trickster. She talks about this in Big Magic. All right, so let's say you have made the choice. I've convinced you to take a little step in the direction that you feel pulled. You've made that choice, or maybe you've made a big step like my husband. All right, beware of the trickster. The trickster can show up in 2 ways, and I don't know what this is. It's some kind of energy, and maybe it's something we create with our fear. But the first way it'll show up is you will get another job offer, or your boss will say, "Are you sure you wanna leave? I'll pay you 20% extra." So it'll be something that makes you second guess your decision. Like you find the love of your life and your old boyfriend just happens to text you. I mean, y'all know this really does happen. Okay, so the other way and you have to stick with your guns. Just know the trickster's going to come in. The other way this happens is a series of bad things, disasters, whatever. Like it feels like you made the wrong choice because bad things start happening. So let's say you decide to do a house remodel, you sign a contract with a contractor, and then your yard floods. And you're like, oh crap, we got to install French drains, or you get in a car accident and now you're down to one car and you have to have physical therapy and like all these expenses pop up. Or you decide to go on this wonderful trip and then you lose your job. You decide to take a new job and all of a sudden your kid gets this diagnosis and you really need your health insurance. You don't want to have a lapse in your health insurance. So these are almost predictable every time you have a big change. And maybe they happen anyway. Maybe it's one of those things where we're looking for tricksters when we make a big change like this. Maybe they happen all the time anyway, and we're just not as aware. But anyway, I would love to hear about your big moves or your little moves. They can be little moves. Little moves turn into big moves. So reach out, y'all. Send me an email, hope.cook@gmail.com, or DM me. I'm not on Instagram as much as I quote unquote should be. So really email's probably the best way to get me. And I will catch y'all next week.